Hello and welcome to the Books Uncovered podcast, a podcast brought to you by Fulcrum Publishing, where we explore the world of books and the people who make up the publishing and the book industry. I am Sam Shinta, publisher of Fulcrum Publishing, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Terri Kramer, Fulcrum's marketing director. Hey, Terri, how are you today?
I'm doing well. We have a sunny day, which is nice because we haven't had the sun in a little while. And the birds are going crazy at my bird feeder. So I can hear them chatting as we talk here. And it's pretty cool.
That is awesome. And I will say same here.
We
have one of our few, I think we've not even had a handful of sunny days in the past month, and the sun is out and it's really cold, but I didn't care. I just went out and stood in the driveway and just absorbed sun for just felt so wonderful. And same thing, the birds are just so happy that the sun is out and it was snowing this morning, but it stopped snowing. So just wonderful out here in the Midwest as well.
Good.
Excellent. Well, we have a terrific guest today. It's just so much fun in these podcasts to just meet such a wide variety. When you talk about people in the book world or people who love books, obviously the go-to is, well, okay, you talk with authors, you talk with people from the publishing industry, or you talk with bookstore owners, and then you chance to find these wonderfully creative people who are doing something so special and different in the book world that is just remarkable. And I'm so happy to Kelly Jervey, our producer, for bringing this guest to our attention, because she is just a wonderful, wonderful guest. Terri Wolfgram grew up in a house that always had books, magazines, and newspapers available to read. She often biked or walked to the public library to get additional reading material. And in 2018, combining her love of books and bikes, she put a large basket on her bicycle, filled it with books, and headed to a park where she offered a book to everyone who walked by. Paperback Rider was born. Welcome, Terri Wolfgram, the literacy peddler. We're so happy to have you. I just love, I love the fact that you are using puns too. I think that is just a wonderful, wonderful gift.
Got to. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to have you. I have a friend, he and I share puns often. And one time I sent him one and he said, you have to always remember that the pun spelled backwards is nup, and I've had enough of these puns.
Nice.
Well, Terri, so what sparked this for you? I mean, was this just something where all of a sudden you saw a community need, or was it just a matter of marrying passions? What drove you initially to do this?
Well, I was always aware of little free libraries. I grew up in Red Wing, Minnesota. There were some there, thought they were cool. Moved to La Crosse 15 years ago. We rent, so it wasn't as easy to set one up. So it just got put on the back burner. And then somewhere along the way, I read an article about Laura Moulton out in Portland, and she's got street books, and she did it as a short-term project. She was letting the homeless folks out there check out books. And it was going to be a 6-week project or something. I forget exactly. But she said on her last shift, one of her regulars said, "See you next week." And they just kicked off their 12th year last year. So huge inspiration. And I've hit her up for advice. So yeah, I just, like I said, got that basket and started riding. That didn't last long. Got a trailer. That was okay. Had my husband build a big box that opened up, painted it orange so I wouldn't get hit by any cars. And now I've embraced a love of orange. And that fall, that was 2018. I started in April. That fall, after talking to people, I did a GoFundMe and got the book bike the following spring.
Wow, that is terrific.
Yeah.
And so how many books have you given away to this point, approximately?
3,121 approximately.
Oh my! Approximately.
I have notes.
Oh my goodness, that is
actually that's the ones I've given out directly. I've also if I get word that a little free library is low on books, I'll bring them a bunch of books. But those are the ones I've handed out directly from me.
And are you mostly getting these as donation books, or are you getting funding to go out and buy new books? How are you sourcing all of this?
It started with just books off our shelves and, hitting yard sales, thrift stores. Then word got out on social media around town. Boxes of books started showing up on my porch. It's like Christmas. And then a year ago, I became a nonprofit. So now people started giving me money to get books. So
that, 3,121 books is amazing. Is just remarkable for a grassroots project like this.
Mhm.
Who would you say are your primary customers, for lack of a better word? You mentioned the homeless population in Portland.
Mhm.
Is that a big, I know we have a significant
Right.
homeless population here in La Crosse.
Yeah, 2022, I didn't reach them as much because because for them, I would take my regular bicycle down to the park, but I got a new bike this past year and I didn't have a trailer. I didn't have a way to get books down there. But the year before that, I was down there quite a bit. I actually befriended one of the guys and we've stayed in touch. But kids are the big one.
Okay.
Because I'm always at parks, and adults are getting better. They were hesitant to take books. It's like strings attached, but the longer I'm around, they're better with it.
This is a bit of like a not book question, but what kind of bike are you riding?
It's a custom bike from Haley Trikes out in Philadelphia. It's a cargo bike. So it's like a trike. So there's two wheels on the front, one on the back, and then the big boxes on the front. When it's closed and I'm riding, everybody thinks I have ice cream or tacos.
That's cool. Do you also cycle? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
No, go ahead. I was just curious how many books you can hold at a time in that box.
Yeah. If I have kid books, I usually have like 100, 150 with me at a time because it's all folded up. And then once it's open, then I set them out. So I try to have at least 100 each time I go out.
Nice. Yeah. Do you also cycle when you're not delivering bikes?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of cycling do you?
I don't drive, so
anything. Oh, nice. That's amazing. That's
how I get around. And then last year I got a folding bike, so now I can take that on the train when I go to my hometown and ride around there.
So cool.
Yeah,
that's really amazing.
For fun. Yeah, I'm always
and
on a bike.
So you say mostly kids. So are you mostly doing this on weekends or afternoons?
Yes, in the summer. In the summer, I go out more because kids are out of school. But yeah, weekends are my big. I try to go down to the river at least every weekend, one day.
Even when it's cold out, you get down.
No.
Okay.
I start April or May, weather dependent, and then I go through October. Like downtown trick or treat. That's my last day. Although it's going to change. I just signed a lease. We have a space downtown. It's a second floor, so I can get all the books out of my house. But I'll have some access to open up on the main floor, like set up a table or something.
Wonderful. So people can just come and get books whenever.
Yep. So I'm not sure how soon that will start, but it's happening.
Oh, that's remarkable. I know there's I cannot remember the name of it, but there's this huge operation out in Baltimore that is a community book giveaway program.
Oh, cool.
And they've been doing this for years where it's just an open, almost like a warehouse, not quite that size, but like set up that way. And the idea is that people can just come in and drop off a book and take a book.
Nice.
But not with the library idea. This can be your book. And so many people obviously don't have books. We've seen that with our own company. I've given hundreds and hundreds of books away to students over the years. You give someone a book and it's just a remarkable thing to possess. Yeah. What have been the reactions of the folks that you've given the books to?
Free? Really? Free? That's a big one. I love when I have like a regular stop in the summer, I'll roll up to a playground and kids are jumping off the equipment, screaming books.
Oh my goodness. So it doesn't matter that you don't have tacos or ice cream. They're just happy that the book lady's here.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. You're like filling a need that like a library, which those are free books, but you
Mhm.
don't get to keep them. You're filling a need that hasn't really been filled in any other way. From your perspective, like, why is it important for people, and especially children, to have books at home that belong to them?
They're just an escape, I read so much as a kid. Um, I just want kids to enjoy reading. Um, I don't know.
And that accessibility where it's like this thing that they own and they get to take care of, and
Right.
they
And the,
get it
the
whenever they
neighborhood, I'm
want.
sorry, the neighborhood I'm in is low income, and we've got libraries, but they're a ways from the house. Maybe they can't get there. There's little free libraries around, but maybe they won't walk there. If I just roll up where they're playing, they're gonna come at least look.
Yeah. Do you remember, like, as a kid, what the book that was like, oh my God, I love reading? Do you remember what that experience was like?
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 8, so there were a lot of like old books in my house. And there's a book every time I'm at an antique store and I see like old kid books, I'm looking for that book. I couldn't tell you what it's called, but it was thick. It had multiple stories. One I remember, there was this kid and he found these little people called brownies. Anybody can
Oh my God, that's a Scottish folk tale.
But it was in this book, and I loved reading that story. And that's the first book I remember reading.
Oh, that's so cool.
Of course, then my mom sent a note to my kindergarten teacher saying she can read, and she handed me a Dr. Seuss book with all these words that were made up, and I couldn't.
Yeah, like, wait, what? That's really cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Kateri? What was that book that was the gateway for you?
Yeah, I think there were two that happened at the same time. My parents used to read to me before bed every night, and they'd like rotate nights. And my mom read me The Hobbit and my dad read me Harry Potter. And I think that might have been it, but I think I struggle to remember. My grandma read me a book, The Trumpet of the Swan or something.
Yep.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, E.B. White.
Yeah.
White,
Yep.
And that might have
That's a good
happened
one.
even before. That might have been my like, oh, whoa, I love stories book. But yeah, one of those three, and like having it read aloud to me, I think was why it felt so formative and special.
Nice.
Do you remember yours, Sam?
I like all of us. I was an inveterate reader from the time I could possibly do it, but I think it's a book that I think I've mentioned before on the podcast. It was from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Baisley Frankweiler, which was just to me, it was such a magical transporting. And so I think what Terri's talking about how a book can just take you to a whole different world. And here was a world that was grounded in real world New York, but was so unlike what I grew up with and what I had been exposed to and what I got to see and enjoy. And so it just took me there. And it was just, oh my goodness, this thing between two covers can do this for you. What a remarkable, remarkable gift.
I've given away a few copies of that book.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite. I always have a copy of that. And I've done the same. I've given away copies to high school kids or college kids. It's like, go read this and rediscover why reading is just so special. That's wonderful. So you say mostly children are are these mostly younger kids, teenagers? What are you finding, or is it across the board?
Not so much on the teenagers, but I'm working on that. I've been working on finding books that they want to read. I hate it if a teenager comes up looking for a book and walks away without one. So working on that. Young readers, and they're so excited if they find some that they can actually read themselves. That was hard to keep in stock, but I try. And then tons of picture books that go to all ages.
Do you have any favorite picture books? I still go to the library and just sit and read picture books.
So many. Because right now I've got a part-time job at elementary school where I go, and depending on the kid in the day, they read to me, we read together, or I read to them. It's like the best. So I've been reading picture books with them. One Hungry Monsters, a fun one. I can't remember the author's name right now, and I feel really bad. When our
We
kid
can
was
put it in
little,
the notes.
yeah, when our kid was little, we had it as a board book and loved it. And then we were at the library one day and found it, and there was like a whole nother section to the story that we never knew.
That's cool.
So I've read that. The End is a fun one by David La Rochelle, who he just writes fun stuff.
Have you read the Bruce books?
The what?
The Bruce books. He's
Bruce?
like a little bear.
No.
Like adopts a family of ducks, I think it is, and
Okay.
they like think that he's their mother. It is so good. It makes me laugh every single time I read it. We can put I can't
Yeah.
remember the exact
I'll have
title,
to-
and there's like
I'll
a
have to
series,
check
but
those
we'll put
out.
it in the notes too.
Yeah, because I'm always looking for books to read with these kids. So
Yeah,
I mean, there's
it's a
books
great-
there too, but
Sure.
they're excited to see something different come in, you know.
But you now, despite the fact that you've got a lot of kids' books that you're servicing, you do have some adults as well. That now do you
Mhm.
have some regular, again, for lack of a better word, customers in the adult world that are trying to find books from you as well, or is this a little bit more
The
varied?
adults are more just like they just happen to run across me. I don't, except the one summer when I was a regular down at the park. I had a couple of guys that were always looking, but I've always I try to always have some Westerns with me, some Louis L'Amour, because they like those. But yeah, I don't have a lot of like customers searching or adults searching me out. They are just surprised to find me, you know.
Yeah, that's just neat that you're able to
Mhm.
service across the board though. What has been the biggest surprise to you in terms of doing this?
Ooh, biggest surprise. I don't know. It's more fun than I even thought it would be. That's for sure. I mean, I'm already getting itchy to get the bike out. It's just fun. So fun. Everybody should get a book bike.
I don't want to now.
And what about challenging? I mean, is it the funding? Is it the getting the books?
Early on, it was a little bit of a struggle getting books, but like I said, word spread, and now all the retired teachers find me.
Oh, okay.
they don't
So you're
wanna
getting a
part
lot
with
of the
their books.
classroom. Sure.
They don't want to just give their books and not know what's happening, so they find me and they're just so happy. So yeah, the last year it's been an official nonprofit, so we're still dealing with some growing pains on getting a board and regular meetings and stuff and funding, but it's all coming together. It's good. Yeah.
And now you mentioned too that you got inspired by a program in Portland
Mhm.
that then in turn inspires you. Have you heard from anybody that's heard your story that maybe is thinking, okay, how do we
Mhm.
do this? And what do you tell them?
Yeah, there was a guy who lived near Detroit who had been building little free libraries for different neighborhoods and putting them up. But then he saw me in the little free library stewards group on Facebook, and it's like, well, that's cool. So he found an adult trike, and modified it. He ended up doing that with two of them. But then they moved out near Portland, so I hooked him up with the folks there. So they've met. I haven't met either of them yet, but so now he's done a little bit of help with street books out there. But a couple other people have asked questions, but but he's the one that's actually done it. So kind of fun.
And so it sounds like to really get something like this going, you need the trike that can hold the box of books.
Mhm.
And then you just need to get some books, and then you just need some energy and some spirit and some goodness. I mean, is that pretty much it?
Level ground is helpful.
The level ground is certainly, maybe San Francisco would be tricky with this project. But I mean, I make it sound rather simple, but it just seems rather straightforward in terms of
Yeah.
getting this going.
Yeah, it is. And you don't have to go this big. You could do like I started, just big honking big basket on the front of the bike and throw some books in it. And I did, when I started out, I got an official little free library mobile charter number sign so that people, it would look a little less questionable.
Sure. Well,
You're like,
you mentioned
official.
that skepticism that people, oh, what do you mean free? It's nothing in life is free, right? But all of a sudden
Mhm.
it's like, no, this is really free. We
Yep.
want you to have this book.
My favorite thing is I'll be at a big event that's got all ages, and it's always a guy. Hate to say it, but it's always a guy, and he'll walk around the bike, and then he'll start looking under, and then he asks, "Where's the motor?" And I just
I
pat
can
my
picture
leg,
it.
and
I can picture it exactly.
yeah,
So, I mean, that actually brings up a kind of a funny question. How far is the farthest you've had a pedal with the book bike?
Well, you guys being in lacrosse, you'll understand. I've gone up probably Rudy's drive-in is the farthest. Up north I've gone.
Okay.
South I've gone down to the new train park. I don't know the
Okay.
distances. I just go there. And then
So
I
you're
go,
you're going several miles.
yeah. And I've gone on some like group rides with Beer by Bike Brigade, so that we put some miles on with that. So, but yeah, I've got a pretty good circle that I go, and I know the least climb to get to and from the river. Each year it's a challenge to figure out which streets are the smoothest to ride on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it changes year by year too, unfortunately.
Always an adventure.
Always an adventure. Have you so you mentioned so you've got some little kids
Mhm.
that now have come to expect this. So you have some repeat customers with
Yep.
some of the children. Have you heard from any of them as to how the books have maybe changed or impacted them?
Not really feedback like that. One summer I was making a regular stop at a park. They had like their summer school program or something. And I went there every week at the same time. And I did get a little note. The girl had to ask the volunteers how to spell some words, but she told me I was awesome or something. Thanked me for the books. I've got one kid I'm still in touch with. He was 11 the first year I started. And I saw him every week, a couple times a week. And now he's almost 16. And we met up for pizza a while back. And
Oh,
That's
wow.
so cool.
he's a football player now. So I think I'm going to tap him and his friends to help haul the book boxes.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, it says something that you've got this young man who's coming every week. So obviously you were filling a need for him that he
Well,
wasn't
that and they were
finding.
coming for free lunch, but
Oh, sure.
I knew
But
there would
the
be kids there, so I went. But yeah, he would.
The idea that there were some books
Yeah.
and that, again, you mentioned that I think we have this challenge in society. I remember when I lived in Colorado, one of the struggles we had was that we were seeing some of the school libraries closing at the time because of funding issues. And one of the arguments was, well, but there are public libraries. And then you realize, well, but those public libraries are not always accessible to people. So this idea of having places where people can get access to information and particularly to books, this is why I just love what you're doing. You've just removed all that and said, no, I will take them to where the people are, as opposed to worrying about the people. I will find you and we will get you some books. That is just remarkable. That is just such an inspiring story.
I crashed a couple of National Night Out parties one year. And then last year I actually got invited to one, and then I went back, and the one that was super fun last year, I hit them up again.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
So what's the largest number of books you've given away at a single event?
Ooh, that's the one number.
Approximately.
About 50, I think. I could be wrong. That's just top
but
of
a
my
pretty
head.
good number.
Yeah. I haven't broken 1,000 in a year yet. I came close that second year. I was at 980. If the weather would have been good that last day, I would have had it. But it was like raining, turned to snow. They put me inside instead of at the park. So
yeah.
What can you do?
Well, and you mentioned the word broken with respect to records. Have you crashed the bike at all, or have you had good luck with that?
I've come close. I've gotten a front wheel up every once in a while. It's a little terrifying. Because it's you steer the whole box, so there's
Yeah,
a little bit of a
exactly.
learning curve to ride it.
Yeah. So
And
maybe it's not as easy as I was making it sound. You have to learn how to steer with
and
a.
actually I did go further with it once. We went up to 608 Distilling on a beer by bike.
Oh, sure.
That's the farthest I went. And I almost tipped it, and then I had to go into traffic and hope there was no cars because the sidewalk tilted, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's going. So thankfully there was a driveway right there. So I just turned and went into the road, and luckily there was no traffic coming.
Yeah, I've packed many a box of books in my history at Fulcrum, and hauled many a box of books as Terri has. And folks forget that, yeah, an individual book doesn't weigh a lot, but put 100 in a thing, and that's, that could be a 70-pound or even 100-pound, depending on the size of the books, box that you're dealing with there. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, people often ask me how much it weighs. I'm like, I don't want to know.
I would like to keep that a secret for myself and everyone.
I mean, I've got to ride it either way. So
yeah. If anyone was like listening and wanted to send you books, where would they send them to?
If they're going to ship them, it'd be
or what's your website? So do you have a website that people can go to?
Yeah, it's just paperbackwriter.org.
Okay.
Cool. Then contact
and
me.
We'll put that in the show notes as well, paperbackrider.org. And so you're now a 501c3, so you can take donations, you can take books. Well, this is just a wonderful.
We have really
story.
Cool shirts available.
Oh, there you go. Look at
that. Link
Terri
on the
will
website.
Be going on this afternoon. Yep.
Many colors and styles available.
Although orange is the preferred, as you noted.
That's so cool.
Well, your story is just absolutely inspiring, because you just show the power of what one person who just wants to do something for her community can just do with a pretty straightforward idea. And I'm so encouraged that there are people like you out there that are finding different ways to bring the written word to people who don't have that access. So thank you so much for that work you do.
Sure. Now you have to find me this summer at an event.
I will absolutely. And in fact, we'll also be sending you some books as a donation for
thank you.
Giveaway there. So
thank you.
Absolutely. No, we're excited to hear what you're doing. And I just hope that some listeners out there maybe get inspired and do a similar thing, because it just shows that there is need, but how you can do that.
Yeah. And if people want to shoot me an email, I'll answer questions on how I did it, or if they get a Haley trike, I'll tell them how I modified mine.
Tricked it out. Do you have a bell and everything?
I've got a bell. I've got a duck and a hamster.
Oh, a horn.
I got my handlebars were modified fit just for me. I've got a little trunk inside. I've got baskets on the back.
Oh, that's so cool.
Big, huge umbrella.
Is there a picture of the bike on your website?
Yeah, several pictures.
Okay, good. So yeah,
and I sent one along
as well.
Yeah, with my bio. I think the bike is on there.
Okay. Terrific. Well, now we come to the favorite part of our episode every time that we get together, which is the "Hey, what you reading" portion. And we just love to talk with people, as is obvious thus far, about books and what they're inspired by. And so the question this week for "Hey, what you reading" is, what book, and it could either be a new book not yet released, or a book that you just got but has been sitting on the shelf waiting to be read, are you most looking forward to reading in 2023?
Well, back to my part-time job, I am very excited. This summer, See the Ghost by David La Rochelle is coming out. It's a children's book. There's two others. There's See the Cat and See the Dog. I love reading them with the first graders because they read one side, I read the other. Love them. Super fun. Can't wait. His books are just so much fun. And we got to meet him up in my hometown, so we've become friends. And
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Is he a Minnesota author?
Yep. Lives in White Bear Lake.
Okay, wonderful.
Mm-hmm. He's an illustrator too, but he does, I think, more writing than illustrating at this point. I also have Dave Grohl's book that I got over a year ago, and I might actually read it finally this year.
Oh, I've heard really great things about that book. I've had a couple friends who've read it who've absolutely loved that book.
Yeah, the older I get, my eyes, the less I read. But so that's where I'm at. Kid books.
Excellent. That's nothing wrong with that.
No.
How about you, Kateri?
I have a long list.
Oh, goodness. Of
I
course.
might be breaking my record.
Oh
I
boy.
have
Oh,
a
look
lot.
at that. Ah,
Okay, so first up is this book, Stone Desert by Craig Child. This is from Torrey House Press. I think it might have just come out. But it's really cool because they like have his actual handwriting from the journals
Oh,
that
cool.
he did. And then because I cannot read it, on the other side, they have the actual text. But it's like about his time in the Moab desert area. And I just really like his writing. So I'm really excited about that one. This one, Night Vision, Seeing Ourselves Through Dark Moods, is a Princeton Press book. And I can't remember if she's a debut author or not, but it's like nonfiction essays about like different quote unquote bad moods and like what those tell us about ourselves and like her own experience with it and the psychology and all of that. So that one I'm super excited about. This one, Poetry Unbound, is super cool. And I really like the author or editor, both kind of. He's the poetry guy that does the On Being poetry podcast, which is also called Poetry, and I think it's called Poetry Unbound. But they're 50 poems. So it has the poem in it, but then it has his like interpretation of it and why he believes it's important. And he's just really good at picking poems and picking poets. So I'm super excited about that one. Enchantment by Catherine May, which I'm actually technically reading right now. She was the author of Wintering, and this is her second book, or her second book in that same vein. She actually has several others, but it's Awakening Wonder in an Anxious Age, and just how the COVID pandemic has kind of affected all of us in ways that I don't think we're completely understanding, and like how to create enchantment and joy and wonder in our daily lives. And then last but not least, and a little bit of an anomaly, is this farm, The Tiny But Mighty Farm, because I'm really excited about having a garden this year and I'm going a little bit crazy. But this is really nice because it shows you how to get a really large yield from a very small space. So those are my most excited books. How
my
about you,
goodness.
Sam? I know.
That's a great list. And you had show and tell, which is wonderful. I don't have show and tell for mine because I have one new book and one book that has not come out yet. But the first one is a book called Endless Flight by an author named Kieran Pym. It's out of the UK. And it's a life of Joseph Roth. Joseph Roth was a German, or actually Austro-Hungarian through Germany author from the early part of the 20th century who just led this fascinating life. He wrote some classics and was able to, he was also a journalist. So he was an observer of Europe between the two world wars and this whole world that was kind of changing. So he documented all of that. He was also friends with Stefan Zweig, another great author from the early part of the 20th century. So I'm really looking forward to this. I just love these stories of vagabond authors and they're, who have kind of lived in this turbulent world and were able to showcase that. And then the other is I'm really excited that a new book from one of my favorite authors, Dennis Lehane, who's typically a mystery author, but also writes, I would call him more like socio-cultural mystery thrillers. He was the author of Mystic River, which was made into a movie a while back. His books are all set in Boston or the Boston area. And he has a book this year called Small Mercies, which is it's set in the early 1970s Boston during the busing crisis and the school desegregation crisis that Boston fought, which was a brutal story. And so there's this killing that kind of happens in the background, but then he tells the whole cultural and social story through looking at that event. And so one of my favorite books of all time is a book called Common Ground, which was the true story of this whole Boston busing crisis, but what it really told about America and our social and cultural life. So I'm just looking forward to a great novel that is just set in that time. So very excited about that.
Nice.
But I could probably go on and on. There's so many new books all the time coming out, and so that's what makes our world so wonderful. Well, Terri Wolfgram, I really, really appreciate you joining us today. The Paperback Rider will have your website in the notes. You are an absolute inspiration. I just love that you are out there doing this and bringing books to the people. You are democratizing this whole publishing process in doing so. And so thank you so much for the good work that you do.
It's like I said, it's just fun. I remind myself that when I'm exhausted. It's fun. In the end, it's fun.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks to Terri as always.
Thanks for having me on.
Happy reading, everybody.